If you're dealing with child-to-parent violence in your home, I want you to understand this is not a reflection of your parenting. You're not doing anything wrong, and you need to make changes so it doesn't get worse and for it to stop. In this video, I'm going to explain to you the protocol I teach families to stop child-to-parent violence. Hi, I'm Ryan. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, former school social worker, father to a son with ADHD who once exhibited severely challenging behaviors. It is not uncommon for children with ADHD, particularly younger ones, to become physically aggressive towards parents or siblings when they're not getting their way, they're stuck on something, or they're angry. Before I get into explaining to you what I teach families, I want to explain what doesn't work. So number one, punishment does not work to change physical aggression in the future. So let's say your child is physically aggressive or they're violent towards your other children. Well, punishing them is not going to change their behavior in the future because kids with ADHD live in the moment. They have difficulty with what we call nonverbal working memory, or what I call future thinking skills. So the ability to visualize something in the future. And they struggle with what's called episodic memory, which is our emotions associated with past experiences and applying those emotions to something in the present or the near future. So for example, you punish your child because they were violent towards your younger children and they got, their iPad taken away. And then a month later it happens again. Well, they're not going to remember necessarily what the consequence was or the emotions associated with that consequence. And they're not thinking ahead to what this could look like if it happens again. This all has to do with executive functioning. And keep in mind, ADHD is an executive function developmental delay, meaning kids with ADHD are approximately 2 to 3 years behind their same age peers in their executive function skill development. So this is why I always say we have to meet kids at their executive function age, not their chronological age, and work from there. The next thing that does not work is therapy. So talk therapy, counseling, play therapy, occupational therapy. Therapy does not change physical aggression. And this is why therapy is not a recommended treatment for ADHD from the American Academy of Pediatrics. The evidence-based recommended treatment for ADHD is parent training in conjunction with medication management for children 6 and up. For children under 6, the AAP recommendation is parent training first, followed by the use of methylphenidate if necessary. Keep in mind, I'm not saying that there's not a place for therapy or occupational therapy somewhere, but what we know is it does not help to curb physical aggression in the future. Other thing I will tell you that often makes things worse in the moment is parents talk too much. So the child is escalated and they're, with the best of intentions, trying to calm them down, or they're trying to give them positive affirmations, or they're trying to process emotions with them. That often escalates kids and makes things worse. So when your child is emotionally dysregulated, when you think that they're going to become physically aggressive, talking at them is not going to help them. The best thing you can do is stop talking and be quiet. Again, there's always exceptions to things, but overall, I often find that parents with the best of intentions escalate their kids because they're talking at them when they're already emotionally escalated, and kids really cannot learn and they really can't hear when they're already emotionally escalated. Everything I'm going to explain here is covered in more detail in Scaffolding Better Behavior, the ADHD Dude Parent Behavior Training Program, which is part of the ADHD Dude membership site. Number one is taking a firm stance and resisting the behavior. So if your child is escalating, you just say to them, I will not accept you hitting me. Or you say something like, I won't accept you hitting your brother or sister. I'm going to keep them safe. Taking a firm stance won't necessarily stop the behavior, but it's letting your child know that I disapprove of your actions, and that can be really powerful just in itself. Number two is enlisting supporters. Supporters are people who the child respects. They can be a grandparent, aunt, uncle, neighbor, family friend, youth group leader, whoever it is. They do not need to be local. They just have to be somebody who can reach out to the child when they are struggling. Supporters are somebody who the child would not want to know about their violent behavior towards family members because they would feel embarrassed. So with supporters, you ask them if they would be willing to reach out when your child is struggling and just offer their unconditional support. There's no scolding, there's no lecturing, there's no shaming. All they have to do is reach out and say, hey, Ryan, I heard you're having a hard time treating your mom the way she should be treated right now. What can I do to help? Or they reach out and say something like, hey, Jessica, I heard that you're hitting your brother right now. I know you can do better than that. What can I do to help you? So by offering their unconditional support when the child is struggling, what they're letting them know is your behavior is not a secret. I know about it and I'm here to support you. In some cases, this alone will end the child-to-parent violence because the child really doesn't want other people knowing about this. The actual term for this is called constructive shame. Let me explain the difference between destructive shame and constructive shame. If I intentionally make you feel bad about something because I'm angry at you, that's destructive shame. Constructive shame is if I know that I treated you poorly and then I feel guilty about it, That's constructive shame. So think of constructive shame like an internal moral compass. When we activate that constructive shame, it helps kids realize, you know what, I really shouldn't be doing this. Now, if you're watching this and thinking, well, I would never do that, I would never want my child to experience any kind of shame, I would ask you, so is it more important for you to protect their feelings than teaching them right from wrong? And I will tell you, I've had parents sometimes say, well, I won't enlist supporters. I'm not going to do that when they're being violent towards me. And I say to them, well, I can't help you then, because if you're telling me that protecting your child's feelings is more important than teaching them that you cannot be violent towards people who love you most in the world, I don't know what to tell you. Luckily, that hasn't happened too much. Next is presenting the announcement to the child. The announcement is a letter that you write and you read to the child where we talk about all their great attributes and what we love about them, and we let them know that there's things that we have been doing that have not been helpful to them, such as allowing the child-parent violence to go on. In this announcement, we are not asking the child to change anything. Rather, we are telling them what we are changing in response to their violence. We tell them about enlisting supporters, and we tell them what other changes we're going to make in response to their violent behavior. You can find a sample of this announcement letter on my social media. The next part is coming up with a plan of what we're going to do when the child is actually violent towards us. Typically, what I suggest is you come up with a plan to separate yourself from the child and let them know, as I explained in the announcement letter, this is not a punishment. Rather, we're doing what we need to do to keep ourselves safe. And when your brain is calm, then we can all come back together again. Now, people often ask, well, what if my child doesn't listen to the announcement, or what if they rip it up? And what we do is we leave multiple copies around the house, on the refrigerator, on their pillow, wherever. And it's okay if they don't necessarily listen to it. I promise you they will likely read it, and even if they don't read it, they know that a change is coming. I do have to mention, there's a lot of information out on social media right now that is really appealing to parents because it talks about connection and empathy, and some of these social media influencers and professionals go so far as to say, even when your child is being violent towards you, they're connection seeking and they want your connection. Well, that goes against the clinical literature. If you reward violent behavior with your undivided attention, what you're teaching your child is that this is normalized, and when you treat me or your siblings this way, you're going to be rewarded with attention. The last part of this is what I call the cleanup. The cleanup is the way the child makes amends when they've said or done something hurtful, like being physically aggressive. A cleanup can be something as simple as, writing a short note or helping with a chore or doing one of their siblings' chores. The idea is we're teaching the child to make amends when they said or done something hurtful. And what that is also teaching them is reciprocity in relationships. I also believe that parents should model cleanups for kids if they lost their temper, if they said something they shouldn't have, because that's helping your child understand how to make amends. This protocol that I just explained is evidence-based. It is based on the nonviolent resistance methodology created by Dr. Chaim Omer. So if you are experiencing child-to-parent violence, again, you're not doing anything wrong, and you need to make some changes here in order to significantly reduce or eliminate this altogether, and you can absolutely do that. I hope this is helpful. I'll speak to you soon. Take care.